women were going to the bars in the car and inviting the Friends of Jesus to our breakfast on a Thursday.
These guys actually had to ask permission from the pimps if they could bring them to a breakfast.
Which are the bar owners.
Yeah, 2 days later. And would you guys have 29?
Yeah, 29 big girls. And they're not sure. There's one guy there, and they weren't sure if that guy that was sitting at the breakfast was a pimp, or he could have been a prostitute himself.
Because he asked for prayer and stuff when we were praying for everybody, but that was the biggest number that they had.
Yeah, they never had that many people there before.
And they had 11 kids.
They brought their kids, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
But when we went to the bars, we didn't just invite them to breakfast. It was really awesome because they're so receptive there. They allowed us to introduce ourselves and what we were doing there, and they allowed us to pray over the ladies. So the ladies were very open and receptive to prayer, and they were crying and weeping, and which made us cry and weep. It was very emotional.
Who was sharing there? Who was?
That's Sam giving her testimony.
Oh.
Yeah,
It was
pretty
good.
powerful for the ladies as well. And some of those prostitutes, the one, when we went into the very first bar we went into, there was quite a few in that one. And we were all drawn to this one girl, like, immediately. And she was just this young little thing. She was only 14, and she'd only been in this bar for 2 weeks into the prostitution. And her sadness, just like we all were just immediately drawn into her, and then we asked about her. And so she came to the breakfast, and then we prayed for her. And it's really sad, but that's the life that some of them just have to live right now.
Oh, Sandra.
And how a lot of the women get stuck in prostitution is they go from like, for say, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and they try to cross the Mexican border because they're trying to run from their life that they have at home. But instead of saying where they're actually from, they say Guatemala, so that's where they bring them. And nobody knows them, and nobody trusts them. Nobody knows them to trust them enough to give them work, so they tend to get stuck into working in the bars as late Friends of Jesus. So.
And they're in those bars, like they're not allowed to go out for walks or anything without permission from their pimps. That's where they live. That's where they stay all the time.
A lot of them with their kids as well in the bars. We were actually lucky enough. The one lady we actually got to go into her home. She has 3 children, and her house was very, very small. So there was
a mattress on the floor.
It's
just, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and like you could smell the mildew, and so we got to actually pray over them in their home, and that was pretty empowering.
The thing that touched me about some of these bars, these brothels, was that they have like jail-like windows.
Yeah,
and everything's like jail.
Like right there.
You can see kind of there. The women, you can't see the women right now, but they're inside, looking out the window. It's like they're in bondage. Like they're in jail. Like they literally are in jail. They can't get out. It's really, really heartbreaking.
And now the one boy that's standing there in the blue and black striped shirt, that is Nelson. He is an English teacher down there, well, becoming one. And so he was with us for the one day to learn a little bit of English, and he ended up painting, we painted the House of Refuge for the one full day, and he helped out with that and learned that paint is really not good with around us people because we ended up covering everyone in paint.
There's Wes, and he's talking to one of the guys and praying over him.
It was a real simple little ministry that we did there. That pail is full of coffee, and we gave them coffee, and I mean, we had a nice scoop, but we poured the coffee and gave them a donut, and I mean, it's funny how you can just use simple little things to simply get someone to stop, and you can pray with them or share with them. I mean,
it was just out of the back of a van, and they were just kind of gathered around, and it was pretty cool to watch.
So this is at the one school that we did the feeding program in, and that's just all the paintings they had on the wall. Yes, that is Lynn, who is the goddaughter of John, right? So the goddaughter of John, so she came with us.
School break was on right now, so the numbers of the kids that came to the soup kitchen part was...
It's 33.
Yeah, there was only 33, and so, when school's on, it's 300, so But they still came out. There was one gentleman who waited for 3 hours for the soup. And they just come and they bring their little bowls and they wait and then they get their soup and then they walk all the way back home to share it with their families.
Some of them even bring like tubs of like, what were they? Like
a
just
Tupperware
like,
tub.
not even Tupperware, it was like, you know the container you get your margarine in?
Yeah.
They were bringing those and filling them up and then they'd walk all the way back home and share it with their families.
And I just want to touch on that a bit. While we were there, we were doing an object lesson. Steve and Carla are very, I don't know how to say this, very spontaneous. Like, just before we were leaving for the children's home, Steve said, "Can you guys run service?" And we're on our way there. So you have to be very quick and you know, be ready, right? So I came up with an object lesson really quick, and Carla, and it worked out really good because it dealt with pennies and how many, I needed pennies to show an object lesson for all these kids, and we were talking about, you know, washing these pennies, and we had a solution to wash these pennies, and it shows what your heart is like before you accept Jesus into your life. So it was a simple object lesson about Jesus cleans your heart. But the pennies, I had scrounged pennies from everybody, and I just had enough pennies for the 33 kids.
Exactly enough.
Exactly enough pennies. And I had no idea how many kids were going to be there, but it just kind of was neat how I had the exact amount of pennies for the kids that were there. That was it.
And then they came, pennies, and the solution came out clean.
Clean. Solution made the pennies clean, which talks about your heart being clean after you accept Jesus. And they got to keep the pennies, and they were thrilled about that because they've never had a Canadian penny. So they got to keep
Oh,
that.
wow. Pennies are useful still. No, they're not being counted anymore.
So these are just some of the kids that were at the feeding program, just waiting around at the yard. So this is them, well, a few of us and the kids playing soccer. The group waiting for the soup. So this is the group that we taught them a few songs and a few actions, so the kids really enjoyed that, and so did us teaching them.
Sweating their hair.
It's so hot.
You're standing in the shade.
No, it's hot.
Dripping hot. You're standing there, you're sweating, 130 degrees. It's very hot.
130 degrees.
So this is just one of the little boys that were hanging out upstairs in the one where you seen the first picture of the balcony up top. A few of the kids were up there just playing around with the ball.
This would be Wes's camera crew.
Ah.
He's like a baby Roger. There you go.
Good stuff.
So this is the soup they were making. To us, it didn't look too appealing, but to each and every one of them, it looked great, and they all enjoyed it.
Those are like wieners in there. That's the meat that they put in. They chop up wieners and put in it. And then there's compressed veggies and rice, and then once it's water's added and chicken broth, then it gives it lots of
Doesn't
flavor.
that mix all come from Cambridge, was it?
Yeah,
Wieners.
it's company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we talk about the
Oh, yeah. Freeze dried.
Yeah.
And they get that a couple times a week, and that's like their most nutrition that they get. Well, this area that we were in, they were poor. Like, it was shacks. I mean, when we stayed at the House of Refuge, it was like a nicer
We
part
were
of
living in
town.
luxury, really.
Yeah, it was really actually, I mean, we had rats and cockroaches and everything, frogs crawling around us, but I mean, these guys were living in literally shacks. Like, there's just like nothing to them, just some lean-tos, and a lot of the kids didn't have shoes that were walking to come get their soup, and so, I mean, it was a poor, poor area.
Do you need a hug?
That'll be the salvation prayer there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
This is where we were doing the pennies, actually. Each kid has it in their hands or getting them handed to them. We did another few games just to keep the kids busy while the food was getting made.
Simon said, or what was it?
Zeus says.
Yeah.
Jesus say.
Jesus says.
Instead of Simon say, we do who's Jesus, so it's just Simon says.
The thing that we found down there that was really amazing is that they're so lovable. Like here we have such a touch me not society. It's like very, zero tolerance, no hands, don't touch people, and there, I mean, the kids would just like see us and just come up and hug us, and same with the older people and stuff. Everybody's just always hugging you or hanging on your hand. There's always somebody grabbing at you and wanting to be beside you, and it's so
Or
different.
fix your bathing suit for you.
Or fix your bathing suit when you they're very helpful. Some of it's inappropriate, like they really just don't even think and they do things that, they shouldn't be doing.
Hannah got really well bonded with this little girl there, and it's on her heart to buy her some shoes, because she had, do you want to mention something?
Well, she was just, as soon as we got there in the van, I looked through the gates that we were going through, and she's standing there and she's waving, and then I walk in and right away she just came and hugged me, and I was like, oh, hi. And then just for the rest of the day she was just hugging me, always beside me. And then after we fed them and stuff, I looked over and she was she wasn't eating her soup, she just looked really sad. So I went over and I sat with her, and she showed me her heel, and her shoes were way too small for her, so she had, her heel was all blistered, and, it was just really bad. So then she sat on my lap, and then she ate her soup, but, she couldn't even put her shoes back on, because they were so small for her. So she had to walk home with one shoe on, so that was really sad to see.
So, yeah, so Hannah's gonna buy her some shoes, she's
Yeah.
gonna get someone there to send them.
Anthony would do it for you, probably knows exactly who she
Yeah.
is.
Tell them what she did.
Oh, and then at the end, she didn't, you could tell she was trying to say, I love you, but she couldn't, so she got me to do it with her, and she's and it was really cute. So.